First of all, the UAE got its HOPE mission into Martian orbit for the first time. Now, here's what I'm wondering. So I know you've got to get really fast to get out of Earth's orbit.
Yep.
Do you then just sort of cruise along in between time? It's just this floaty material and you've got to go fast to get into Martian orbit after that?
Close. You have to slow down.
Slow down?
Yeah. Right. So that's right. You go super fast, and then you just kind of cruise. Again, like a plane, you get to your cruising speed and altitude, and then you just sail. So they were going along at about 125,000 kilometers an hour between Earth and Mars.
And you can do that with not using much fuel?
That's right, because there's nothing to stop you. There's no air, there's no gravity. But then that's the trick, is in order to get into Martian orbit, you have to dramatically slow down. So they had to slow down 110,000 kilometers an hour in about 20 minutes.
Right.
So it's a massive braking thing, because otherwise, if you go too fast, instead of gravity kind of capturing you, gravity slingshot you out, and then you just sail off into space. Which
on the other side?
Yeah, you would essentially completely miss the target.
Right.
So getting it right on the first go is actually quite impressive. They're only the second country that got it right on the first attempt, the first being India. And
China is also into this orbit?
That's right.
How many cracks do they need?
So this is their second mission to Mars. The first one wasn't successful, but they got this one right again on the first go.
If this had missed it, could they loop back? Does it depend how much petrol you got?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. It depends on how much fuel you have, how fast you were going, how much you missed it by. You know, it's kind of like in lots of sports. Do you need one kick or two to really get the goal?
Right.
That's the question there.
NASA has scheduled SpaceX's Falcon 9 Heavy to launch the first two parts of Gateway. This is a space station around the moon. So is that different to the space station that sort of goes in our orbit?
Yeah, so it's a different model, a slightly different purpose, but Gateway is as part of NASA's going back to the moon mission. So NASA wants to obviously get back to the moon, as we've chatted about. Part of it is a semi-permanent presence around the moon. Now, the best way to do that is actually to use a space station, like we have with the astronauts going around, but by putting them in orbit around the moon, it's actually quite easy for them to kind of duck down to the surface and back up. And again, because the moon has very little gravity, you don't need as much fuel to take off of. So it's kind of a stepping or a stop-off.
So it's like anchoring at the moon.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That's
exactly right.
Okay.
And so it makes it a lot more efficient in the traveling to the moon.
You've always got these ridiculous name stories. Astronomers have confirmed that far, far out, which is apparently a space term.
Which is further away than far out.
Of course it is the furthest thing in our solar system discovered. So it's 3 times further than Pluto. But that's within our solar system.
That's right. So, you know, if we see here, we have Saturn, Uranus, and Pluto. And then we have another grouping of these, what we call minor goblin. Goblin was discovered on Halloween. And then you have what's called far out. And now then far, far out, confirmed at what we call...
Biden's nothing to do with Joe, I'm assuming?
No, it has nothing to do with Joe in this case. So as he said, it's over 3 times further than Pluto. And so what we're finding is that there's actually a collection of these really small objects on the extreme edges of our solar system. And so a big question is, how are they actually there? How many are there? Are they the sign of a bigger planet or even a different star system that was previously there?
Yeah.
Or what relics they're left of?
So we know there's orbit around Earth.
Yep.
What happens when you get to the end of our solar system? Would it be a similar thing? Would you sort of slow down and get through that threshold and go on?
And just keep going out into space. Yeah, at some point...
You'd enter another...
You literally would enter essentially what's called interstellar space, the space between 2 stars, until you would travel...
To another one.
And that actually could be millions of years. The fastest our current rocket can make it, it would take 75,000 years just to get to the next star system. So there's an awful lot of nothing in between.
Right. So basically, you exit our one, and you're on the interstate highway then until you get to
you're on cruise control, not paying attention for centuries.
Mind-boggling as usual. Speaking of mind-boggling, Shane Warne's mind has been boggled by what's been put out there. So we'll pull up the tweet. This was the tweet put out by @Fact.
Yes.
There are more stars in the sky than grains of sand on the Earth. And Warney says that can't be true, surely.
So there's a slight caveat here. So stars in our sky, we can only see about 5,000.
Right.
But if we're talking about stars in our galaxy, there's 300 billion. And then if we actually add all of the galaxies, so there's actually 2 trillion galaxies, all of those have 100 billion stars. So there are more planets, there are more moons, there are more stars, and there are more galaxies all the grains of
Well,
sand.
Warnie said, hey, who's counting the grains of sand, though?
Yeah, look, a poor PhD student. No, we could do a good estimate, just as we kind of estimate the stars, and not even to the same scale we're talking about in terms of the numbers here.
So how many grains of sand are there?
That's a good question. I mean, there are in the orders of tens to hundreds of billions of grains of sand that have been estimated, but we're talking about trillions to...
So it's not close.
Hundreds of trillions. It's not close.
All right.
So, sorry, Shane, but it is true.
I love how we've got Shane Warne into Space Talk. We'll talk next week, Brad Tucker. Thank you.